Hello and welcome back. Under my World of Warcraft TTRPG world design video, there was quite a lot of voices, quite a lot of people interested in seeing more about the system we're using. And to be frank, recorded yesterday, as of this recording, I recorded yesterday an hour-long video where I was creating a character, was writing down the whole character, going through the whole process, and frankly, I wasn't too happy about how it came out. It was completely unscripted. This is unscripted too right now. But I wasn't very happy with how it came out, and it was very long. So I thought I would go over it again. Just go through an already created character, which you should be seeing on screen right now, and explain the various basic things about the system, how it works, on the example of an already existing character. Who you see before you is Kurikage, who is a Yukito, who is also an example of some of the lore I created, added to one of the new continents. Yukito are partially based on the Japanese Yuki-onna myths, except they are not these weird tricksters hiding in the snow, luring men to their deaths by seducing them. They are a full-fledged race who are, in the context of the Warcraft lore, they are to Frost Vrykul what humans are to normal Vrykul. Normal Vrykul were corrupted and turned by the curse of flesh, turned into humans. Frost Vrykul, who were located in Yoaken, the Japanese-themed continent, turned into these Yukito folks, and including Korikage, who is the long descendant. Yes, this is an AI picture because it's an NPC, so I didn't want to spend too much time on creating a character, creating a picture, but I have a lot of bespoke character pictures that I took a lot of effort into creating, especially when it's a PC, an actual character that will be played by a player. But this is an NPC, so I just grabbed a picture I created with Bing, made of blue, whitish blue, like the Frost Raikou, and I also had to fix one of her eyes because it came off weird. Anyway, enough about the picture. The system is largely what I like to call it a point by skill based system. Now, firstly, it doesn't have to be a skill-based system to represent Warcraft well. In fact, Warcraft in general is a class-based system in the MMO, and it was largely class-based in the old RTSs, in the RPGs that came out between the games. However, I created a skill-based system simply because I like skill-based systems more, and I think they give you more freedom, more creative freedom in creating characters, and this creative freedom is something that we really wanted to have. So that's what it was more important to us as a group, as creators, than strictly adhering to the past examples of what Warcraft has done in the past. It's skill-based because there are things you level up by doing them. One of such examples is proficiencies. Proficiencies are based on various schools of magic and damage types. You get one armor proficiency. In this case, she is a spellbreaker, so in my version, the spellbreakers like to use either leather or mail armor, so she's using mail armor because she's supposed to be more tanky. And also the proficiencies, the physical proficiencies, like proficiencies for weapons, but they're not like sword proficiency, axe proficiency. I like to divide them by the damage type. So it's slashing, bludgeoning, piercing, ranged, which is not a damage type, but it modifies what you're using. There's also a voice proficiency, which modifies like like yelling at people, like warriors do with various shouts. There is of course a medicine/poison proficiency. There is a disease proficiency separate from the poison. There's also a separate acid proficiency because it's not the same as poison, and you can have creatures that are weak to acid that cannot be poisoned. Those are the basic physical proficiencies. And then the magical proficiencies come in six elemental schools and 6 cosmic schools. The cosmic schools are based on the 6 cosmic forces from the Chronicle lore, not the cosmic schools, the elemental schools as given in World of Warcraft, because this was an update to the lore that the actual MMO has not followed up on. And I get why they didn't follow up on it, because they would have to change like thousands upon thousands of spells that exist within the game systems. Some of them probably unused, many of them probably unused because they were on like 1 or 2 NPCs. So it would be a lot of very tedious work that no one would see, and I get why they didn't do it. But I was creating a whole system from scratch, so I could do it. I could reclassify things. Therefore, you have 6 cosmic proficiencies. That is Arcane, Chaos/Fel, that is Nature/Life, which is not for poisons and diseases and acids. It's Nature/Life is just for nature magic, the druidic magic. There is Death or Necrotic proficiency. There is what I was left with Holy/Light, and there is Shadow/Void proficiency. Those are the 6 cosmic proficiencies based on the cosmic forces. There are 6 elemental proficiencies. Water and ice are in 1 proficiency because it's the water element. There's no separate ice element in the lore post-Chronicle. Air, lightning, similar, bounded together because it's all based on air. There is of course earth, fire, and the 2 new elements that we learned about in the Chronicle lore, that is spirit and decay. So that should be all the proficiencies, and you learn them by doing them. You start with a certain amount of proficiencies. This is a character that hasn't done anything in combat yet, so this is the proficiencies you would start with. And if you have mail armor, you can have +10 to 1 proficiency. She chose Arcane. You level proficiencies by doing them because it's based on crits. When you land a critical hit with an ability, you do double the damage and you land +1 to the proficiency you landed it with. There are mixed proficiencies. There are the enemy's proficiencies, which modify how soon you can crit with them, but that is a longer topic that would necessitate a more detailed look into it. Another skill-based thing you learn by doing is professions. You see, for example, blacksmithing. You learn blacksmithing by crafting actual items with blacksmithing. There is a very robust crafting system, and while exploring or while doing certain off-screen table mission, you see a mission table in the screen over here. I will not go into that right now, but you, in the various missions and in the exploration on live sessions, you gain various crafting materials, and you can then use these materials to craft yourself more items. You also can start with some items. She already started with a shield and with a necklace, and you can craft items like this using your crafting professions. And when you do, say you want to create an item that is that has 2 traits, a necklace that has 2 traits on it. So you have 2 AP, so it's like an item level. I'm going to go into it into a moment. If you want to craft a necklace with 2 traits in it, you need to roll 50 or more on a D100. It's a D100 based system. If you roll 50 or more, you gain +1 skill to the profession you crafted it with. If you roll 75 or more, you then gain +2 to that skill, and so on and so on every 25 on the roll, you get +1 more skill to what you just crafted. It's a little more complex, but that's the basics. Also, personality skills. We have 6 personality skills: persuasion, deception, insight, intimidation, knowledge, and performance. You can probably guess what each of these skills is basically about. It's the same general idea as in like Dungeons and Dragons, but there's only 6 of them that we chose to be used in the system. And you also, when creating a character, you choose 2 of which you are good at and get +10 to them, 1 of which you are bad at, you get -10 at it. And you also get a background which gives you an additional specific bonus. In this case, she gets +10 to persuasion, but only versus other soldiers, because she's also a soldier. So these are the things the major things that you level up by doing them. But also, I said it's a point by system, because our characters do not have levels, they have what we call AP. This is not artifact power or Azerite power, this is advancement points. Most characters today start at 28 by 30 AP. Don't worry about the lower number right now. What matters to you is the higher number, the upper number. The lower number matters only to me. It is something to communicate to me that I know what kind of rewards you can get from your missions or from the live sessions. So you can see most characters start at this 30 AP threshold, which means this character is built on 30. The combat skills of this character are built on 30 points. So you get 21 points to divide between your health, your resource, and your speed. You can probably guess what health is about. Your resource is used to guarantee a certain amount of magnitude your offensive abilities grant. So the basic combat goes by you roll D100 plus any modifiers you get, and if you get 25, you deal, say, 1 damage, or you remove 1 stamina from an enemy. If you roll 50, you deal 2 damage. If you roll 75, you deal 3 damage. If you roll 100 to 125, you deal 5 damage. And there are higher thresholds, but this is the basics that you get at the start. And if you're using, say, mana to use those abilities, you can use 4 mana, but roll 50, and then you use the 4 mana, so you deal 4 damage from that mana anyway, instead of what the roll would give you, which would be only 2. That's what you use your resources for. There are 4 types of primary resources: mana, energy, combo points, and rage. I'm not going to go into detail what each of them does, but they were based on the resources in World of Warcraft. And there are various other resources that have separate functionalities, but they mostly fall into these 4 categories they found. So, and yes, you gain rage by being hit with something. So a character that chooses rage wants to get hit. He wants to have lower defenses, and he wants to get in the way, and he wants to taunt enemies. So he gathers a lot of threat. Threat is a very complex thing I'm not getting into, but he wants to get hit. He gets rage from it, and he can then use this rage to empower his abilities. The 21 points go into these 3 primary attributes. The 4th attribute, primary attribute, stamina, is just granted to you as you get more advancement points. At 30 AP, you gain 2 stamina. At 40 AP, you now have 3 stamina. At 80 AP, you get 4 stamina. Stamina is a reduction to control effects. It lowers lowers the duration, about how long crowd control effects will stay on you. I would have to go into a lot of details again. So if people will be interested, I will go into more details and explain on a basis of a sample combat encounter, perhaps with this character or some others, to show how the combat encounters work. Now the rest of the points used for combat are in traits or in inventory. The traits currently, starting character gets 4 points to spend on the 5 points to spend on these first basic traits here. Generally, we now recommend using 2 points on one big trait, 1 point and 2 other points on 2 smaller traits, and then you also get 1 negative point. A negative point that you use on a small malice to a character. I don't think this character ended up giving a malice. I think I actually made a little mistake here, but let's see another character. This character definitely has a malice. You see him with the AP costs attributed. So you get 2 AP on this big trait. Big in the sense that for 1 AP you get +5 to dodge rolls. For 2 AP you get +10 to all dodge rolls. For 1 AP you get +10 to specific attack rolls. So if it was 1 AP for all attack rolls, it would be +5 to all attack rolls. But if it's weapon attack rolls, you get to have +10 to weapon attack rolls for 1 AP. And he also has a small malice for -1 AP that gives him -5 to debuff rolls. So that's 21 points in attributes, +2, +1, +1, -1. You also have 3 points to spend on the so-called oath, or a chapter trait. This is a special ability you get to use once per day, generally. You land it on a large area, generally the most basic ult, and you once per day you just get to do a one big AoE. To go more into these roll bonuses that you get here, there is no spellbook. There are no lists of spells that you can do. You have these proficiencies which show what you can use proficiently. So she can use proficiently can slash, she can proficiently use bludgeoning damage from like her shield, she can proficiently use arcane skills, water ice skills, lightning skills, and some chaos skills she can use proficiently. But I do not limit what you can do in combat. There is a number of various things you can do, various action types you can do. So it's control, attack, or dot, or as you see here, tanking. There are these various things. There's healing, inspire, which restores the stamina of other characters or gives them extra actions. And I do not limit what character can do what. If you say you can do it, you can do it. I might just ask questions if you bring up a Death Knight who can heal, and I might ask questions like, how does that work? Like, was he a priest before? Does it hurt him? Does he need a negative trait that hurts him when he heals someone? You can work it out, and I might just ask some questions, and this might end up giving you some ideas. But this is something that I do not limit. You simply get a bonus or a malice to what you can do well or what you can do badly. This is the basic foundation of this character. Like I said, it's a skill-based system, not a class-based system, but there are classes. The classes do not limit what you can do, generally. but the classes give you special bonus traits. Her class trait as a spellbreaker, which works just like the blood of spellbreakers, is that she can lifesteal shields. That's a small thing, and when using mind control to take control of a summoned outsider, the spellbreaker can ignore its stamina and apply the duration directly per roll result or resource invested. So this means that if an enemy summons a demon, she can use a special mind control roll to which she has +10. And while normally the stamina of that demon would reduce how long that mind control would last, because she's a spell breaker, she can, if she uses 3 mana, she takes that demon for 3 turns, no questions asked. That is a special trait only spell breakers can do. Most of these classes have unique class traits. Some of them have repeat class traits, but every class has a special class trait that gives them some special ability that not all characters in the system can do. One of the last things here left is the inventory. Most starting characters currently have either 1 weapon or 1 piece of armor and 1 accessory. These weapons and armor and accessories also have IAP, advancement point value. In this case, the shield works like a piece of armor, and this line costs 1 AP. Specifically, these armor hit points. And male with 3 armor costs 1 AP, and then she also has a trait on her shield which also costs 1 AP. In this case, she can roll deflect and reduce the damage that is landing on her by simply using her shield to block that damage. Accessories, which is like necklaces, rings, trinkets, cloaks, things that do not have armor or value or weapon damage value. These things have just the traits. These things have just the traits, and they also have the AP value for all the traits that they have on them. In the case of the other character I showed you, this guy, he has a weapon. He even has 2 weapons, and he has 2 slashing damage on his weapons. This means that when he is hitting a target with his weapons, and say he would roll like only 27, he would normally deal only 1 damage. But instead he has on his weapon, he has 2 slashing damage, so he can choose to use that weapon damage value instead and reduce the weapon durability by 1. And he has 2 weapons, meaning he can use his main action to use the main hand weapon and then use a bonus action to use the other weapon. And normally you only get 1 main action, 1 bonus action, 1 move action. And if he had any extra bonus action traits, or if he had any items like potions he would want to use, he wouldn't be able to use that second weapon because that takes her or his bonus action. So every character starts with a 1 weapon or 1 piece of armor and 1 accessory. So these are all the very basics of the system, what you can buy with the advancement points you get either at the start of character creation or when you advance a character after a chapter in the story. You complete a chapter in the story, you get 1 advancement point, and you can add another trait to yourself. You can't use this AP earned to create items because the items are either looted, dropped by enemies, or you are crafted with the items you gathered during exploration. So, I think we got through all the basics on the example of the character. You can also see that she has an injury because she was created as essentially a first aid dummy, so that other characters can use their first aid skill to try to treat her injury. if a character has a critical injury, they cannot fight. She has a critical injury, -25 to a slashing dot defense, which means that if an enemy lands a dot defense ability on her, the enemy will essentially get +25 to that roll, which will deal a lot more damage. So if you have a critical injury, you cannot fight. We do not generally kill characters because we didn't want to do that in our system. Doesn't mean that it's not doable. If I was doing the system for a wider audience, I'd probably introduce some system of death saves, similar to what D&D uses, but instead we use these injuries. So if someone gets a critical injury or a lot of smaller injuries, that character cannot continue to play, and instead you need to bring up other character. And since we are all alcoholics, we have tons of characters that switch around every couple of weeks and do different kinds of adventures as time goes on. So instead of killing off the characters, they just sometimes have to retire if they get a massive injury or a lot of injuries from the critical hits they receive or from being downed in combat. And then if it's a smaller injury, it can be treated with a first aid skill, first aid profession, which is a secondary profession similar to survival or archaeology, which are also used in camping or exploration to various resorts that I would have to get into more deeply if there is need for it. I think I have now gone through all the basics of the system and how it works. I would have to show you more on a sample combat encounter, and if there is still interest in seeing that, we will do it. But for now, I think that should be all. So, if you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe and comment below about what would you like to see more about. And if no one wants to see more about the system, I will continue with the World of Warcraft world building design videos, and I will do more of them anyway because I want to finish the whole cosmology series. So without further ado, that will be all for today, and I hope I will see you next time. Goodbye.